Hello, welcome back. I'm the Erroneous Kaiser, and you're watching part 3 of my 31 Days of Horror. I take movies I wrote them down in my journal, so I didn't have to do all this all one by one every day. So I take a look at my notes and give you a little bit of a rating. Don't pay too much attention to it. I tend to be a little drunk sometimes. I would say watch all of these just for the experience. I'm not gonna say anything is really unwatchable. So days 24 through 31 here. Shock 'em dead. I would give this a 6 out of 10. Right, this movie has everything: black magic, murder, rock and roll, big hair, tons of nudity, Tracy Lords, and horrible acting for the most part. This guy that works at a pizza place, he's kind of a screw up. He makes a deal with this kind of voodoo witch, which actually might be a pretty racist interpretation, but I don't know. So he dreams of being a big rock and roll star and wants everything that comes with that. He wakes up the next morning in bed with the three girls, and automatically he's got this rock lifestyle. The story is really about him becoming greedy. Like he sold his soul for rock and roll, but he has to pay for it by killing other people and then like sucking their souls out into him through a knife wound that he got. This is really fun and trashy, low budget stuff. I mean, pretty much the whole movie, well, it has some other really cool parts in it, but it's totally worth it to watch the movie just for him selling his soul part. Like there's like this like demon dude like with these double guitars, and he's like, whoa, like, and he's like in this graveyard cemetery with smoke coming up, and there's these hot girls. It's freaking awesome. The whole movie is worth it just for that scene. Midsummer. I don't know how to really say that. Midsummer. I would give this an 8 out of 10. I don't think it's a spoiler to say this is an updated Wicker Man. I'd love to see some more movies where people travel into like countryside in some Scandinavian countries, and people get caught up in these old pagan rituals that require sacrifices. In this one, a girl who, in the beginning of the movie, loses her family to murder-suicide. She tags along with her boyfriend and his friends, who are all anthropology students, on a trip to Sweden where they're experiencing or participating in this once every 90-year celebration of fertility. It takes place in a commune and it lasts 9 days. There are a bunch of psychedelics that they take during this time, and of course there's some murder in it, so a mixture of those makes it for a pretty trippy watch. This is the same director as Hereditary, which is another movie that I really like. But maybe in that as well, the director could make some cuts to these more longer, drawn out, silent parts of scenes that are there pretty much to more as art than actual story building or tension building, which he is very good at tension building, but some of the scenes could have been cut a little bit and this movie would not have suffered at all. Whether we were waiting for people to die or to start the killing, or whether it was just waiting for people to start lunch, I continually was thinking, I wish they'd just hurry it up a little bit. Best sex scene in all of horror cinema, though. Man, it was so awkward. It was like, oh, lady, get out of my face. What's unbelievably funny. A girl walks home alone at night. I would give this a 5 out of 10. It's not lower only because I guess I'm trying to respect the art of it. This is another movie. It made me question, what really is horror? I guess this is classified as like a vampire noir story. So yeah, if you just throw a vampire in your movie, it feels like this is happening more with vampires too. I don't think this film wants to be firmly in the horror vein either. So, here we got a kid whose dad is a junkie, but it ends up his drug dealer ends up getting killed, and this kid is gets a bunch of drugs, and so he becomes the drug dealer. But none of that really matters. Nothing really. There's no real plot to the movie. This movie isn't really about anything. It's kind of like if Clerks was at night and the main characters were a pimp, a prostitute, a drug dealer, and a vampire. But it went nowhere and had 1/10 of the dialogue and wasn't funny at all. Like, there are so many scenes of people just staring at each other, not saying anything, and you're just left there waiting. I mean, and it's supposed to be a big deal. I guess it's an Iranian filmmaker, and then, like, Vice had to help them get it released. They did it in California, and I guess that was a big deal, and, you know, good for them. But, like, that, what I just said right there is way more interesting than watching this actual movie. Tombs of the Blind Dead. I would give this a 5 out of 10. Now, there are two versions of this movie. I watched the Spanish one, so or Portuguese. Is it Portuguese? Maybe it's Portuguese. So then it's longer than the American cut. I think there is more nudity in it. Well, I think there's some. I don't think there's any in the American one. And also, from what I understand, there's a more human sacrifice in the original than in the American one as well. Story goes, during the Crusades, there's one group of the Templars who use black magic to become immortal. I think they get kind of a crap deal, though, because in modern day, there are these dried up mummies, and then they need to feed on humans to survive. But it seems they only feed on the ones that go around their castle area. So if nobody goes around there, which I guess the town in the movie don't, and even the trains that pass, they're like, no, we won't even get off here. They won't even stop for an emergency. I guess that they just stay on their property, and that's why they're mummified. I don't know. So then in the modern day, a crazy woman jumps off a train because the lesbian she kind of dated in university that she met up with on this trip, and who accidentally got invited by her husband to tag along with them, embarrasses her on the train when they get caught hugging. So she decides, I'm just going to jump off the train. Women in this movie, as per the time period, are incredibly stupid and slow when running around. I really do love the design of the Templars. Their hands and the way their like faces and skulls like still have some beard sticking out, and the way their robes lay over them. I do like that. A lot of the movie, I felt, even for the 70s, though, was kind of behind the times as for what effects could be done. One part that was totally incomprehensible was this rape scene. A woman, the crazy lady dated in college. So this woman is talking how she had bad experience with men when she was younger, so she doesn't even like men when the guy's coming on to her. And then she promptly gets raped. I checked it out later. The lead up to the rape was not cut out, but the actual rape was cut out of the American version. If you're gonna cut that out, why not just cut out that whole thing? Like, what's the point of even leaving a single sliver of that in there? The movie cuts away, and then when they come back, she's putting on her clothes and like doesn't want a cigarette from the guy. And then they just go back. And then the movie doesn't really address that it happened at all after that, other than the rapist then dies. But not because of what he did or anything. He happened to get taken by the Templars like some other people did. It just didn't make sense. 47 meters down, uncaged. I give this a 7 out of 10. And this is total cheese, as a shark movie should be. I'm really impressed because almost the whole movie does take place underwater while people are scuba diving, as the original did. And this time they're in some Mayan ruins with these sharks that have been locked in these Mayan ruin caves so long that they've evolved to be blind. The sharks all happen to be great whites. Every single shark appearance is a jump scare, pretty much. Like, at least 2 of them got me, which a lot of people don't like jump scares, but I do. I like them a lot. I think they're pretty awesome. But actually, this movie is kind of like if someone saw The Descent and was like, I got a great idea for a movie. Let's make The Descent, but put it underwater with sharks. The Kiss of the Vampire. I would give this another 5 out of 10. So, newlyweds go to the countryside in like Hungary or Austria or something like that. There's a rich guy that lives in a castle. He invites them to dinner. They have a nice time once. He invites them back for a masquerade. Then things get creepy. His whole house is full of vampires. He turns the wife into a vampire. And then they try to, when they get the husband drunk, and then when he wakes up, they try to convince him he didn't come there with anybody, and there was never been a person on the trip with him. I probably said too much with that. It's only an hour and a half long, and the setup for this is actually really long too. The masquerade party was actually pretty cool. I liked some of their masks that the guys were wearing. Really weird though, all the women only got domino masks. Honeymoon, I'll give this an 8 out of 10. This has a very small cast of only 4 people. It focuses on a honeymooning couple that go to a cabin that the wife's family owns in the woods. Rose Leslie is in this. You might have seen her in Game of Thrones. I mean, that's where I recognize her from. So after a night of sleepwalking, she comes back and then starts acting all weird. The husband gets kind of like suspicious and kind of goes off in the jealousy vein, like, what's going on? She won't give him any straight answers, and there's like marks on her body and stuff. A lot of this movie, you're kind of thinking, like, if I was in that position, would I do that? Would I, like, because sometimes it feels like they might be going off the deep end, but in a way you might think like, oh man, if I was thinking irrationally too, would I go there too? So, and this movie does build suspense incredibly well. Just the ending, it's like they didn't even care, They're just like, oh yeah, and then, yeah, blah. It's like there's no explanation really of like why. It doesn't make you feel any closure or anything like that. This movie was built for the ride. What keeps you alive? I would give this one also an 8 out of 10. It's kind of funny that the last 3 of the movies are kind of similar. They're about a newly married couple who go somewhere. And actually, this one is very similar to Honeymoon because they go to a cabin in the woods that the wife's family owns. Also in this one, there's another couple that lives on the other side of the lake that causes one of the partners to get suspicious. They're both kind of based on the feeling that, no matter how much you think you know somebody, there is a possibility that you know absolutely nothing and they are a totally different person. This one, however, is a little less mysterious and a little more stabby. There are a few flaws, but I think it was easy to look past them, except if you have a chance to drive away, but you decide, no, you want revenge, and then drive back, don't expect the body to still be there. And there you have it. Those are my 31 days of horror. I hope you enjoyed the ride. I definitely did. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. It definitely makes my day if you do. And this was kind of fun for me, so I'm still going to be keeping the journal, so maybe from time to time, check back for another horror review, maybe something you haven't seen before. I'm the Erroneous Kaiser. See you next time.